Hi, I'm Cherie Canning. Welcome back for Season 2 on Lead with Courage. Illuminate Leadership acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land, which we would call this podcast the Yagara and Terrible People. We pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging.
Welcome to Lead with Courage, the podcast that celebrates the bold and inspiring stories of leaders making a difference. We're your hosts, Andy and Cherie Canning, and together we'll dive into the minds of the trailblazers, the risk takers, and those who embrace life with a growth mindset. Welcome to the Lead with Courage podcast. Today we have one of our favourite people from LSKD. He does have some titles and some actual job descriptions, but I would best describe this guy as Macca, the guy who loves running from LSKD. So a huge welcome to Macaulay Ryan, or Macca as we all know him. Welcome, Macca.
Thanks, team. It's good to pop on in and be a part of this. I'm excited to hear what we get to speak about today.
Beautiful. We're excited to have you and, in prep chatting, having known you for almost 2 years now, I think there's so much rich stories and takeaways for the listeners around mental health, around goal setting, around discipline and pushing yourself to the limits. We really want to, and especially my guest host. Are you the guest host today?
Yeah, absolutely a guest host today. G'day, I'm Andy. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast today. I've been on one or two episodes.
Yeah, you're a past episode guest talking about your marathon. So you've got a keen eye on what we want to chat to Macca about with the running.
Yeah, some would say invested interest, I guess.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to get into why you've got a tattoo on your leg there that says just keep running, and same as your shirt for those who can't see the visuals, and we want to get into what all that means, what it matters to you, and have a huge chat here today. So huge welcome. The first question we always ask anyone on this podcast is, what does lead with courage mean to you?
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about this a lot since you sent over my prep questions yesterday.
Thanks for that one.
Boom. Love that dig. And I never got asked that question, actually.
All right. Let's ease up on the chezzy bagging out today.
And I think the thing that kept on coming back to me when I was thinking about this was, if you want to lead with courage, you have to be confident. I think that's the biggest thing. I think if you are a courageous person at heart, then I think that confidence comes from within. So I think that's really I think that's what I kept on coming back to is you have to be confident within yourself, and you have to be confident in, leading the pack.
Yeah.
That's what I kept on coming back to.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Is inner confidence something you've always had or been aware of in your own life?
I wouldn't say I've always had.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely developed over the years, and I would say that just becomes with that comes with life lessons really. And I still there's probably parts of my role now that I probably don't feel as confident in, which would then become my weaknesses as who I am and how I show up. I only know this right now because we had this conversation not long ago, Alex and I.
Yes.
So I think that's where it comes into, identifying where you're confident, and then the areas that you aren't, then they're obviously, I guess your weaknesses that you need to work on.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell us a little bit about who is Macca then. Up until this point, career highlights, big moments, a little bit of background on you.
Yeah. Depends how far we want to go back.
We've got time.
All the way back.
All the way back. Okay. So I grew up in Maryborough, which is about 3 hours north of Brisbane. So a little small town, and then also across in Townsville as well. Spent about 7 years in Townsville. Dad travelled a fair bit for work, so we moved around the country a fair bit with Telstra. And then left school, joined the Defence Force, went into the Navy. Was there for just under 4 years. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay.
Not a huge fan of being told what to do all the time. But, like I said before, life lesson taught me a lot of great things. Also taught me not so great things. So, moved on from the Navy and went and worked in the mines with my old man. So worked for a mining company out there doing power line construction. at the end of that, or towards the end of that, I was sort of like what am I doing? Like I wasn't, it was just manual labor, 13, 14-hour days out in the sun. I was working away. It was 11 days on, 3 days off. So it wasn't really much of a lifestyle. It was just all work. And I always had like a passion for, throughout school and just out of school, I was very heavily involved in sport, played a lot of team sports. And then I just found a love for the gym when I couldn't play my team sport. I sort of filled that void with, turning into a gym junkie pretty much. And that's all I did. I lifted weights and I worked. And I sort of packed all my things up and I moved from Marlborough to Brisbane in the end of 2013, start of 2014.
How old are you around this time?
Maybe 20, oh my God, 24?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that mid-20s.
Yeah, 23, 24 it would have been. Yeah, I did my PT course here in Brisbane. So I set myself up in Brisbane, was able to do my PT course full time. So I knocked that over within, I think it was like 3 months or something. And then went into personal training. So personal trainer for 2.5 years-ish full time. And then moved into gym management around Anytime Fitness. And then that led me to moving. I always PT'd at some degree, whether it was, just a few clients here and there throughout the week. And then in the end, it was like 5 clients that I still trained all the way up until when I started with LSKD 2 years ago, who'd been with me for like 6 years.
Yeah, wow.
And then, so moved on from managing gyms into working for Fit As Fuck, it is called. So moved into their e-com side of the business and started in just like a customer service logistics type role. And then over the 5.5 years I was there, I went from, in that role all the way through to operations manager of Fit As across online and across e-com and the gym.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So I did a lot of growing there. I did stuff in influencer marketing, ambassador management, logistics. You could probably say people and culture as well. Like there was a whole different array of, role responsibilities that I took on board.
How awesome.
And didn't really have any training to do any of it. I just sort of learnt as I went, and and then eventually, after 2.5 years of Keith and I catching up for beers at the Oxford, I got the call to come over to LSKD.
Keith, the CEO of LSKD. Oh, COO. Yes.
CEO's taken.
Yeah, definitely taken. We've had him on the podcast.
Maybe?
Yeah. Sorry, Jace. Yeah, of course, COO. He's very good at that. He's very good at like keeping someone on ice and just making sure. I call it like a bit of dating, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, you're in. We're ready. We're ready for you now.
Did he start to plant the seed early on?
Oh yeah, we had a conversation. Yeah, within that 2.5 year period about coming to join LSKD, but there was just never the right role. And to be honest, when I joined, it probably still wasn't the exact right role, but it was a foot in the door. I joined as an omni-channel specialist working across multiple channels at LSKD. And it was quite funny. Keith was like, I just need a little bit of help with, we're starting to roll out in retail. And I joined at store number 4. And, when this goes live, we'll be at, I think, 15. So, there's been a lot of growth. And I remember him just like, I just need a bit of a hand for this one. You side saddle with me and, we'll be okay. And I'm like, yeah, too easy. Like, I'll get involved. And, I did one. And then he was like, you did such a great job, Macca. Here you go. They're all
Here's
yours.
The keys, Macca. Go open the rest.
So, it took a little bit of time for my role to morph into where I am now with store development. But it needed someone's full attention with the rate we were rolling out retail locations and going into the future as well. So, super exciting. Once again, didn't have any experience. I don't think I've ever worked a day in retail, let alone a week in retail in my life before LSKD. That was super exciting. And sort of just learnt as I've, surrounded myself with and lent on, the right people to be able to learn more about, what I need to know and how can I further my skills.
Yeah, and it's so true to the values of LSKD. Like a few are springing to mind for me now. Move fast and break shit. Like that is it. Okay, Macca, get in there, get it done, and we'll learn for each. I've even seen, I think maybe Melbourne, there's one of them's having a refurb already and it's like 2 years in. So it's, you know, how do we keep learning and making it better, the 1% better every day? So, yeah, it's just true to the values, isn't it? So true. Yeah. Amazing. And so one of the things that I've noticed, and I just love how LSKD are just so nimble and quick to just pick up on whatever's really going to benefit the community, genuinely aligned to the values. And that's one of the things we really want to talk to you about today is, you know, your shirt right now, Just Keep Running. There's the Run Club with LSKD. There's a whole focus, obviously, functional fitness and, you know, different things people have been in all the time, but specifically around running. And I have a feeling that a lot of that's come with your influence and other people's passion for running, of course. But, yeah, as we said before, you've got a tattoo. And it feels weird, like just talking about your body parts right now, but just above your knee on those very nice legs of yours that look very well waxed, probably smoother than mine.
Race ready.
Race ready. My husband's giving me the look, really? You going there? Yours aren't as so
I feel like I'm in the wrong podcast.
No, but all jokes aside, there's a tattoo there saying "Just Keep Running" as your shirt, which is merch that people can purchase. Can you tell us about that? What is this tattoo all about? Where's the story come from?
Yeah. So 2 years ago now, I was doing before I became an ambassador for Movember, I always did some sort of physical challenge each year to raise awareness, raise funds. But for me, it was just about getting people around me, and you know that's the greatest way to have conversations and to have people there with you. So for this challenge, I ran a calendar month. So it was day 1 kilometer, day 2 kilometers, all the way through to day 30 kilometers. And my idea was to just get as many people to join me every single day. And I think across the month, I had just over 250 different people join me for the month of running. And just during that, I actually got the tattoo afterwards. I got a few tattoos after that challenge that I relate back to quite strongly. And yeah, just through that, I can't even remember where I saw it or how it came to me, but it was just keep running. And like every day, day after day, I didn't split up the kilometers either. I didn't, for day 20, I didn't do 10 in the morning, 10 in the other. I always did the full amount that morning or that night. And so, yeah, just keep running sort of just came to me. And it was it wasn't just about running. It was about life as well. And I think it just relates back to no matter any uphill that you come to when you're running along a course or any uphill battle that you are faced with in life, that there's always a downhill. So there's always reprieve. There's always that big deep breath in and okay, I'm on the downhill now. I'm making moves. Yeah. So yeah, that was sort of just, it's sort of got that double meaning around it really. Yeah.
I love it. And is there a particular moment or experience that led you into being so supportive when it comes to mental health and creating the conversation?
Yeah, probably just off the back of my own experiences. Probably.
What can you share with us?
Yeah. So I might grab a quick drink of water before this one.
Yes, of course.
So probably around, I would say it was must have been around 2016, I would say. 2016, because that was the year Kendrick was born.
Your beautiful dog who is sitting there. Yeah.
So yeah, just lived experiences, went through a pretty crappy breakup, and post that I just wasn't in a great place. At the time I was living with my dad here in Brisbane and he was working away still in the mines, and so I was just by myself. Not the greatest time to obviously be on my own. So yeah, I just went through a period where it was a pretty shit breakup. And then from that, I sort of just found myself in a bit of a rut. I didn't really know, I guess, who I really was, what I really wanted. I had a great group of friends around me, but back in those days, it was more so around partying, and I definitely wasn't living the life that I do now back then. So yeah, it was just, there was a lot of partying, and there was, a lot of days spent probably, curled up by myself at home and and with my head in my hands crying, just, depressed, to be honest. And yeah, I had always wanted a dog, and that was the moment where I decided, this is where I want my mate. And I had committed to buying my first property back in 2017, and I was like, this is the perfect time. I'm moving into my own home. I don't have to abide by any, there was body corporate because it was in a complex, but I could have my own space.
Not like renting.
Yeah. Exactly. So I committed to finding, and I saw this red toy poodle on Instagram, and he used to get dressed up in all these cool costumes and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that's a dog I want. And so I found a breeder from Tully up in far north Queensland, and I didn't even get a chance to look at him because it was all the way up there. I was like, I'm not going to really fly all the way up there just to be like, yep, you're the one. And so the breeder sent me the most blurred photo you've ever seen, and all you could see was the color of each collar. And she's like, you've got red collar, blue collar, or purple collar. That was his name on his birth certificate too. Red collar.
Red collar.
So I went with red collar, the blurry red collar. And then, 8 weeks later, so he was born on the 23rd of December. And 8 weeks later, he arrived at Brisbane Airport in a little puppy cage, and he had vomited everywhere through his cage and everything. And he got out and he was just trembling. And
so stressful.
And literally from that day onwards, my life changed like that instantly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's just been my sidekick literally from day dot. I'm quite lucky that in the jobs that I've had, with FitAs, he came to work every day. He was literally part of the furniture, and very much so now at LSKD. He's quite well known.
Yes, he was in the meeting I was in on Monday. You weren't there, but he was.
Yeah. Everyone knows his name too, and not mine.
Yeah. You're Kenny's dad.
Yeah.
That's cool. What a life. What a life for Kenny. That's pretty cool.
And he's just always been I take him literally everywhere I can, to be honest. So and then since that day, he's just completely changed my life, and he's just he is an emotional support dog, not a verified one. We tried to do that, but part of that process, you have to be able to walk the dog with a collar and a lead, and he will only walk in a harness if he's lucky. He actually walks better with nothing.
Right.
Wow. And and so I put this collar on him. We went through the process, and there was a training day coming up, and I put the collar on him, and he just dug all four paws into the
this is not happening.
Legs straight, stiff, and just sat down. He's like, nah, man. I tried coercing with treats and everything, and he just never, there was no way.
A bit like you, not wanting to be told what to do.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. That's an incredible bond, and I love that so much.
Yeah, you guys are lucky to have each other.
Very. Yeah. I'm glad the average age is around 15 to 16 years for toy poodles.
Yeah, no kidding. There's some miles in those legs.
Yeah.
50% of the way through, maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
it's awesome.
Hopefully
longer.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so from there, life got better and different. And so then the desire or the draw card to then be a spokesperson, now an ambassador for Movember, which is a huge event in Australia. And even as we record this podcast, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. You've got the big event coming up at the end of November. So if people want to check it out, we'll put in all the links to be involved, raise awareness, raise funds. What was where's the gap between I'm feeling depressed, I'm really not in a good place, to now being an ambassador?
What I do as an ambassador isn't about what I've been through. It's about what's possible on the other side.
Yes.
So as much as that I talk about, I can talk about a personal story or the reason, why. It's more about showing people that, hey, there isn't the other side to mental health, and that's the really good side.
Yeah.
Because there is a way through it. You just need to find what that is. And for me, it was Kendrick. It was a dog, you know? So there's a lot of, there's obviously other stuff in there too. My joy for, exercise and running was a big part of it as well. But my experiences now are just about, how good it is to have a great, mental health. And it's not all bad and gloomy, and not everything you see on, social media has to be that way. It's about, being on the other side of it and what you can do to get there.
Yeah, I absolutely adore what you've just said, because it reminds me of the mental health continuum, and how at one end we've got like mental illness and at the other mental wellness. And so often we talk about mental illness all the time, and maybe the conversation needs to be more around not even mental health awareness, but mental health practices. I heard someone say that recently. Yeah. I think actually he's coming out with a collab with you guys, a gratitude conversation, and just around having, let's bring it into mental health practices rather than just awareness, it's doing. And I love that you're saying, okay, let's focus on what's on the other side, not ignoring what some of those symptoms or issues can be, but how do we get people to the other side that it is possible? And yeah, I absolutely love the thought that sometimes if someone's not in a great space, we know that exercise is going to be really helpful always, but if you're not feeling motivated to exercise, and then there's another entry point. When you're talking about Kendrick, that's a different entry point to access that emotional well-being. And then from that, it's almost like an upward spiral, isn't it? Like instead of the downward where you go, okay, well, I'm feeling more that emotional support, so maybe now I'm feeling a level of motivation to get out and run a bit more. I imagine at that time running you weren't doing a lot of it?
No, I wasn't. Running for me only started probably more seriously, probably about 3 or so years ago. But I guess just more on what you just said then, like the other tattoo on me is no bad days. And that is a reminder to be like, I know for a fact that if the day is not going well, I know that there is certain things that I can lean on to ensure that that bad day finishes great.
What are some of those for you?
It could be running.
Yes.
It could be running. It could be exercising, just in general. It could be time to myself, just going for a walk.
Yes.
It could be, it's going to see my godkids and my goddaughter and godson, going to hang out with my mates, going for a beer. Like there's so many things that I know. It could be spending time with my partner, like, just something that's spontaneous and doing something like that. I just know that, if I am having not such a great day, there's certain things that I know that I can do to ensure that my day does finish great. I don't think it's very often, I don't know, maybe Sammy might say something different, but there's rarely a day where I'm like, I've really hated that. Like, I really can't remember the last day I was like, wow, that was a shit day,
Yes.
I've always got something that I can reach into, I guess, my toolbox to be able to use and ensure that I finish the day on a high.
I don't know how many people speak about that. I absolutely love that.
Is there like a reflection point each day that you kind of go to, I guess, take stock on the success of the day or how you measure the day? Or like at what point do you sit there and kind of being like, yeah, you know what, it's another good day, 13,000 in a row, whatever that may be.
or to go, this isn't a great day, I've got to shift the gears a little.
Just maybe like it. Maybe you could talk to kind of like those bookmark moments through the day, or how you catch yourself out if you're just not quite in the right frequency.
Yeah, I personally operate at such a high frequency because I know that, the moment I start to dip or there's something not quite right, then it throws me off the rails a little bit. But I think it's more, for me, it's how I feel. If I'm feeling like super overwhelmed and like highly stressed, and not to say that I don't feel those emotions, but if I'm feeling that way, then I know that I can, I know that, okay, well, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling super stressed. All right, I'm going to finish up work and I'm going to, ring my best mate or ring my partner or, go see my godkids and know that I'm going to feel great when I get there. And forget about that feeling of feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And for that moment in time, I'll be okay and I'll finish the day strong, and then I'll get a good night's sleep and,
do it
on
all
to the next.
And so that is just a conscious awareness of your feelings and your physical body and then your emotional mind.
Yeah.
What have you done practice-wise? Because I know you've done a lot of personal development over the years as well. So are there things that have really got you aware of how you feel? Because I think, you know, that's for some people, they're still developing the self-inner awareness of what those feelings might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, like a lot of this has come over the last two and a bit years, you know, since being involved with LSKD and doing stuff with you, Shez. And I think it's a product of being surrounded by the right people as well.
Yes.
Who also have those tools.
Yeah.
And the understanding. I think it becomes much easier to either speak about it or be open about it when you're surrounded by people like that.
Yeah, you can access like that level of vulnerability straight away, right? Because you already have that trust, you have that frequency, you operate on that level.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go into an education piece or, you know, feel totally raw that you're about to, you know, kind of show a part of yourself that someone hasn't seen before, and then they kind of don't know what to do. So
there's no shame in it because I think people are like, oh, let's just talk about it because we know how to get through it. That's powerful.
So I think that's probably, you know, that's been a massive credit, and I've learnt probably more about myself and my emotions over the last 2.5 years than I probably have in my entire life.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I think that's, and you know, that comes from, you know, personal development and also just, I think, being encouraged by the people around me as well to, you know, show vulnerability and to have those conversations.
Yeah. And that's really magic. And also you're leaning into it, right? Like sometimes the environment can present itself, but people don't lean into it. So the fact that you put your hand up to be on the mentor squad, and shout out to Sean Martin, his mentor. But you know, mentor squad.
That's a good mentor.
Yeah.
I walked past him yesterday. He's a good human.
Actually.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, awesome human being. And so I think turning up to the programs, the books, all the learnings, the different people you have access to. Yeah. Powerful.
The kind of keen to know, I guess, with the mental health and how that you've mentioned that you've started running to, you know, prior to today, I guess what I knew about you is you're the guy that goes for really, 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 really long runs. So
and enjoys it.
and enjoys it. And usually there's like a motive there or a big cause there that you're running towards. It was Movember or whatever. So I'd love to know, kind of, you mentioned it started maybe 3 years ago or so, and then which ties in to a lot of the learnings that you've had about yourself along the way. So maybe you could talk to just what the marriage looks like in terms of the learning about yourself and then pushing yourself or meeting your edge through running or whatever.
Yeah, so I started, I ran my first marathon at Gold Coast Marathon in 2021, I think it was. And I'd ran the half marathon, it was in COVID, so did it virtually. And then, signed up to do the full marathon and got into that, and I was doing triathlons and stuff as well, but I hated swimming. So I gave that away. I was like, why am I doing something I do not like?
There's a fine line of like, I'm pushing myself and I just detest this. And
then I finished Gold Coast Marathon and I was like, oh yeah, that was cool. Like, got it done.
What kind of time did you do?
It was my first marathon. It was 3:35 or something like that.
It's pretty solid.
But I didn't really, I finished, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as what I thought I would.
Okay.
And then my coach, who still coaches me now, Jamie, he's like, oh, why don't you try trail running and get into trail running? And I started trail running, and then that's when I really unlocked that, that marriage between running and mindfulness and learning more about myself, because I don't run with music for anything, even for ultras and stuff like that. I just prefer to listen to my breath, listen to my thoughts, problem solve, bring in new ideas, whatever it may be. And I started trail running, and I just, being in nature and running through the bush, I just felt so at peace, and that I could just be so in tune with my thoughts and what was going on around me. And a lot of the running I do, do by myself, apart from, the run club and stuff. But it was time where I could just have by myself, and, with, the pace and what life goes at, to be able to have 2-3 hours by myself in the middle of nowhere with sometimes no phone reception, which is even better. And the phone goes on do not disturb. It's, it's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it really took off for me. And I got into trail running and then I just started running longer and longer distances. And then I never looked back.
And so the one that really sticks in my mind, you've probably got a heap that you can refer to, but I think it was last year, and you did the where the building of LSKD is on the block of LSKD.
Yeah.
You decided to run around the block.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one.
So once again, another Movember challenge, and the whole idea was to get as many people to join me as possible. Once again, I think we had close to 300 people join me over the 11 hours. I started at midnight at LSKD HQ, and the block is 1.8 kilometres long or short. And I ran 100K around a 1.8 kilometre loop. And the whole idea was for people to come and join me. To join me, you had to donate $10 to the Movember Foundation. I think last year we raised, was, I think around 15K in total, which was awesome.
Well done. Yeah.
That was the whole, I started at midnight. I had probably I had around 15 people join me at midnight to start, including my brother who drove from the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, wow.
So he drove up and started with me. It was really fun, actually. The funniest part was actually when people started to be like, oh, this way's not as good. Let's run back the other way. And I was like, yeah, you're telling me, but like I ran this a few more times today.
Yeah. How many laps was it in total?
I think it was around between 55 to 60 plus laps or something.
Oh my gosh.
I think when I mapped it out on Strava, it was around that. But in the end, I didn't end up counting. I just went by how many kilometres.
Until you hit the Ks.
Yeah.
Were there any laps where you were solo or through the middle of like crazy hours of the night, the 2, the 3? Someone was with you the whole time?
I had a group of people with me at all times. Yeah.
Wow.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Just for conversation.
Yeah.
The monotony of that same block. You need to mix that.
Yeah. And I think the best part was like you had new people joining every hour or whatever it may be. So like the morale was kept really high. You got new energy that came in. Some of the people there like ran, I think there was a couple of Soph and Dimitri who are great friends of mine ran like 40 or 50K with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then you get new people come on board every hour and they bring new energy. And then there was people who couldn't run, and we actually teamed up with Trek Bikes, and they brought out e-bikes.
Oh.
And so we had e-bikes for people who didn't want to run.
Like me.
Yeah, which was great. So like, heap of the crew from work
still be part of the event.
Yeah,
wow.
Came out and jumped on e-bikes and, carried my water. Or we had a few speakers in the baskets on the bike. So we had music cranking and stuff. So
that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Keen to know with the long runs, you mentioned like those anchoring techniques that you have, like when you're in the bush, you can hear the sounds, you can hear your breath, you don't have music as a distraction or anything like that, and so then it's just about being totally present and you can focus on what you're doing. But I'd imagine when there's a cliff that comes with pain and discomfort or whatever, and conversations you have to have with yourself to move through that. Similar to what you said before, you're either on the up or you're on the down, and that's just kind of all part of it. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about in those longer runs, what does the anchoring kind of look like? Like when you push through, I mean, I've only merely just recently done a full marathon, but nothing more than that. And would love to hear whatever you have to share on that.
Yeah, well, there's probably 3 tattoos that I look at on my body to start with. Just keep running and no bad days. And then the other one on my wrist, which is RTQ, which is refuse to quit, which was a little saying from my hockey coach from under 16s.
Wow.
From back in Townsville. He wrote it all on our hands when we were going into the grand final of our hockey grand final at State Cup. And he wrote it on the hands, and RTQ, refuse to quit, never let, don't quit on your teammates and don't quit on yourself. And that stuck with me for quite some time as well. But in those long runs, I think it's so hard. My mind is my biggest asset. My mind will push me further than what my body can. Well, my mind will help me push my body as well, obviously, but my body will shut down before my mind will. That's probably, and it kind of sounds weird because you think, well, you know, your body's probably going to give way at some point. But yeah, my mind is my biggest asset. And I think that's why, you know, when things do get hard, and I think also going into these races, being in a great mindset plays a huge part. And obviously on training runs and stuff like that, there's probably times where I don't feel like getting out of bed and going and spending 4 hours running through the bush. But I know if I don't, I miss out on that time to myself. And I miss out on time doing something that I love and something that I enjoy doing. So yeah, a lot of it comes back to discipline, to be honest, for me. I'm the sort of person who will just get in and get shit done. And if that means I have to get up at 2:30, 3 a.m. to drive to Mount Cootha, to be on the trails, to get in 40K of running before I go to, go and spend the day with my partner, or, go see family or go to work or whatever it may be, then it just has to be done. A discipline is, probably this, one of the biggest things that I pride myself on and what I always turn back to. I don't think there's any sort of pivotal moment or tool that I potentially would lean into. Yeah. I think it's just grit, and it's just getting it done.
Where does that discipline come from?
My dad.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad, hardest worker I think I've ever known in my life. Still to this day, he's retired and he still finds a way to be the hardest worker in the room. But yeah, he's the same. And then that's where it comes from. He's resilient. He's strong. He's a hard worker. His work ethic is like second to none. So I think that's just been ingrained in me from like watching him through his work life. He worked for the same company for 31 years at Telstra. That's quite an achievement in itself, and travelled the country, while we were young and still into into later years in school and stuff as well. But yeah, if there's any job, he will do it. Whether it's for me or for someone else. And, I think that's where I get a lot of my core values from is from, watching him growing up and what he does. But yeah, that discipline and that work ethic comes from him. Yeah.
And you mentioned before we started recording that you have a run this weekend, which I've written it down here. So 6.7 kilometre loop.
Yep.
It's called the Backyard Ultra. Mm-hmm. And you basically just run until you decide to stop.
Yep. Or you don't make it back within the hour. So
you don't make it back. So you have to run 6.7 in an hour, as many times as you can for an indefinite period of time.
Correct.
So if you don't hit it, like if you're an hour and 2, then you're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what does the psychology look like? Do you have a goal for that one? Like in terms of how long you aim to stay out there, or how many loops that you're willing to share on air? Bearing in mind this will probably get released after.
No, bite my tongue. So I did the same so it's 6.7 kilometers every hour on the hour until you either don't make it back within the hour, or you physically, mentally tap out and say that's me. So I did this format last year, and I did 15 hours, which was just over 100K. Which was, to be honest, is quite a small amount compared to I think the world record now is 112 hours.
Wow.
So like the professionals who do this format day in, day out are like, they go for days. Yeah. Within the same hour. Yeah. So they're so good that they just micro sleep and like all that sort of stuff. So it's crazy. So last year I didn't really train for that method of race because I was prepping for another point-to-point ultra, and I sort of just went into it to be like, let me see how far my legs can take me. And what gave out last time was my body. My hips just started to like lock up, and I was getting to the start line of the next lap, and I looked like I was 80 years old, like keeled over with a walking stick to get going again. I just couldn't straighten out. Like it was, my hips were just so sore. And I knew I had this next race in 5 weeks. So I was like, I didn't want to push myself to the point where I was going to injure. So yeah, I guess for this, it's...
Can I ask you a question on that? Yeah. Do you know where that tipping point is in terms of kind of feeling that intense amount of discomfort and then knowing that you're injuring yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty in tune with my body and how I feel after what we spoke about today. But yeah, definitely when it comes to that sort of, like, I know, like, okay, that's not great. I've just come back from a recent injury, and when that started to flare up, I was like, oh, that's not like just like, you know, your normal day-to-day soreness from running or from gym.
Just fatigue and
you know, that's not good.
That's where you and I have been hanging out at Studio Pilates.
Pilates
on
saved
the
my running
reformers together. Yeah,
saved my running career. So yeah, my goal, you shouldn't go into this type of event with a goal.
No, I was going to ask you that as well. And maybe goals are a bit of a loose word, but you know, is there a kind of like a target or an expectation maybe that you might have that you might want to share?
I would love to make 24 hours.
Yep.
Which would be 100 mile, 160K roughly.
Yep.
That would be great, but you just never know. You never know what could happen.
Is that the furthest you've gone before?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that'll be my furthest run. Yep.
Incredible.
So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Well,
starts on it actually falls on my birthday. So for my birthday this year, I've decided to run an ultra marathon and put myself into some very, very, I guess, dark places for a few hours.
A deep amount of discomfort.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. What date is your birthday? What's the date
5th of October.
5th of October. Oh, so yeah, literally 3 days.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now, 3 days out?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm in a taper week at the moment. Okay. So, only 2 runs this week. So, yeah, taking it pretty easy. Rest is a big key this week. Rest and food. And then, starting a carb load at the moment. And then
what's on the menu?
Just heaps of potatoes and rice, really.
Yeah.
With every single meal. And then hydration will take quite a big part of that coming into Thursday and most definitely Friday. Yep, being well hydrated going into it, starting at 7 a.m. on Saturday.
How many gels do you consume?
I don't actually take gels for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Ultra running's a little bit different where if I had to have gels for 24 hours, one, I'd get over it pretty quickly. And 2, I think my stomach wouldn't enjoy it either.
So you're eating? Like, what are you doing then between? Do you eat?
Yeah, so the strategy, which is another big part of running a backyard ultra, is fueling. So I'll probably do the laps in around 40 to 45 minutes, roughly.
Right.
So then I've got enough time to come in, eat, potentially sleep if I'm getting to that point. Refuel, rehydrate, go to the toilet, whatever it may be, stretch, whatever. And then, but for eating, I'm like, I think last year I started craving peanut butter and jam sandwiches. So Sammy was making me peanut butter and jam sandwiches, and I'd have some laps I'd have my phone with me, and it wasn't the greatest reception, but I'd be like, oh, I really want this, or like I really want that. So when I come back in, it's ready to go.
That's
or
awesome.
If like something's on my mind, the good thing about this one, it's out in Toowoomba, and it's a bit closer to town. The one last year was in Nanango, and there was like there was nothing nearby. That was open. So at least if I feel like a Big Mac or something, then can send Dad or Sammy down to the Maccas to grab me something. But yeah, just eating solids. That's until the point where, there is like the potential that I'll lose my appetite as well.
Yes.
That just happens with as you go on. So there's that as well where I'll I have carb drinks with like carbs and stuff in it too. But yeah, it'll be like some of my go-tos are like Smith's salt and vinegar chips, pretzels, snakes, red frogs, muesli bars, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
Then, yeah, bagels.
Now I feel
and
a bit
stuff like
silly that I asked you about that. It makes sense. Like when you're running that long, you actually...
Yeah. Gels I'll use, like the only gels I would use is for caffeine.
Right.
So caffeine during this event, I'll use either gels or no-dos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To push through.
Yeah, wow.
Mm.
So
imagine you need a pretty big support network when you're kind of not like just you're being like, I'm just going to go for a run today for an indefinite period of time.
Yeah. And
there's a bit of prep to be done as well. How many? What do the logistics look like for that? How many people do you need?
This I guess when I've done, this format is great because you're at the one, you start and finish at the same place every hour.
Yeah.
So we set up like a marquee table, got a camp bed, recliner camp chair to kick back if I need to, and then Sammy and so my partner Sam and my dad crew me for majority of my races.
Awesome.
So they'll have everything's all set up. We've got the pantry and changes of clothes. I have this like revival strategy that I do. So every 5 laps I'll change my clothes, wipe myself down, feel fresh, just to give me another,
boost of energy or
injection of life.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's massive. Like you were saying before about, you rely a lot on like the change in, day to night and night to day as well. It's going to be quite hot. I think it's predicted to be like 28, 30 degrees. So it's going to be warm. So I know if I can get through the day, then I'll get some cooler laps in of a night. And then you get like that rebirth as the sun comes up in the morning. So yeah, there's a bit of strategy behind it. But yeah, my dad crewed me for my first 100K ultra in the Blue Mountains, which was awesome. Yeah. So you can have in those point-to-point races, they've got like checkpoints. And so you can have bags taken to those and you can collect them, which will have supplies and stuff in there for you. But my dad decided that he would travel to every checkpoint, which is great because it was like you saw a familiar face and, he loved it as well. Made heaps of friends along the way. But yeah, so you rock in and sit down and dad knows now, like, when I need a talking to and when he knows to be quiet.
Yeah. Can read the play. All right.
Yeah.
What does Macca need right now?
I still remember, I think it was the Backyard Ultra last year, and it was towards the end of, I was maybe 13 or 14 laps in, and I was like, my hips were really starting to I was getting pretty sore, and he could see that I was just like a shell of a human, to be honest. Like my face was just blank, and there's a photo of me afterwards. Like after you get eliminated, you go and take your tag off the wall, and there's a photo of me, and I'm just standing there and I'm just like, my face is just like blank, and I'm like, the lights are on, but nobody's home sort of style. And I just remember he was like, all right, well, it was like 13 or 14 laps, and I was just sitting there like looking at myself and, looking down, and I was like nodding off and stuff, and they blow the whistle with like 3 minutes to go to the next lap. And I remember him just going, all right, well, off you go, on to the next one.
Just no empathy, just like, come on, mate, kick you out. Yeah, I love it.
And that's all I needed. And I was like, God damn it! Like now I do have to get up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this for you, mate. Get up there. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, lots of pre-warning. Crewing can be quite intimidating in a way if you don't know what to expect. There's a lot of emotions that can go through it, and even I can get like frustrated, or sometimes I just want to be left alone. I just want to sit there, or if I want something done my way, then I'll just do it. And, credit to, Sam and Dad, like they know, like, all right, well, you just do you. And, if you need anything, just tell us, So yeah, it can be quite a daunting experience as well.
Yeah, I guess it's that realization not to take anything personally. And it's like the ultimate wing attack, like here if you need, if you need, and just being there. I think I heard Ned Brockman speak a little bit about that as well, with like the way he'd treat his crew sometimes wasn't always something you'd be proud of, but it's just all the emotions you're running through, and they get it. Well, they have to get it, really. Yeah. Well, Macca, 3 days out. Best of luck for this event. We're going to be keenly following along, and obviously this recording will have been released after, so people can come and check out your Insta and have a look how it all went. And I know we'll also put some notes in for your big. Tell us about the Furball event. Is that right? Have I got the right words?
Yeah. Furball. So Furball was started 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago now, by a mate of mine, Cam, who's also a Movember ambassador. So it was just a way to bring people together without the whole between myself, Cam, and Rory, who's our third mate involved in Furball. Every year we've done some sort of physical challenge, and Cam 1 year ran 60k in gumboots. Rory, he ran 30 marathons in 30 days consecutively. Yeah, wow. He's a lunatic. So yeah, we decided to there's probably a nicer way to do things and raise money and funds. So yeah, we've started Furball. This will be our third year. Just started in Brisbane, and now we're in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne this year, which is great.
Great.
And now we've got a committee of 15 people on board, which is so cool.
So it's a big evening event, isn't it? It's like a gala style thing?
Yeah, so the Brisbane event's on the 30th of November or Movember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tickets are $150. All proceeds go to the Movember Foundation. And yeah, it's just a night of we have live bands, we've got DJs, we do giveaways. It's just a night to bring everyone together, and I think it's really special because it's at the end of the month, and it really just brings together that celebration of what the month's about as well. That morning is actually the More Than a Run, which is a massive run held globally for Movember. By another two Movember ambassadors, Alex and Ollie. So it's sort of you do this, this awesome big run. You can do 10, 30 or 60K in the morning. And then the joke is you do 10, 30 or 60 beers of a night time. So yeah, it's such a great evening. Last year was super special. Sydney's is actually on a boat, which is super cool. And then Melbourne is at a venue down there. I can't remember the name of the venue off the top of my head now. And then, this one's at Cloudland in Brisbane. So November 30th, head over to Project U, it's called, on Instagram, or Google Furball 2024, and the tickets will pop up to be able to purchase.
And we'll put some links in as well, which is brilliant. If it wasn't our daughter's birthday, the 30th of November, we'd be there. But I don't know how we'd go, saying, sorry, darling, we won't be at your 8th birthday. But yeah, we're definitely here to support it. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. It is always a joy. I'm going to speak on behalf of Andy, but I'm sure that this has inspired you to go, what's next for your next physical challenge?
Yeah, I've been. Thank you for speaking for me. Thank God for that. I've been kind of tossing around a few things in my head, and trail running is high on the list to explore. I've got a couple of friends who have done it before, and talking to you as well. Yeah. So I notice that's how it works for me. Kind of get that curiosity piece, and then go find out more information, and then commit and execute. So
it's a lot nicer on the body as well. As much as people think, trail running, it's up and down hills and all this sort of stuff, but the ground is softer. You're not running hard on your legs the whole time. There's definitely places where you have to hike up hills or walk. You don't have to run everything. And that's what I enjoy most about it as well. There's no pressure to run the whole way, or, if you're going out for a run in the trails, you could end up hiking 70% of it because of the terrain. So yeah, it's a lot nicer on the body too.
Yeah, even the idea of it kind of just doing some math attached to that, like a 6.7 kilometre loop in an hour. That sounds like a breeze, for a certain period of time until it becomes less breezy. Versus kind of what your 3 hour and 36 minute marathon that you did, for example, which is that more like 4 minute Ks? Is that about right?
So long ago, I really can't remember the exact.
Yeah,
it could have even been a little bit longer, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think I've ever ran. Well, sorry, I lie. I have ran a marathon since, but not in a race or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Beauty.
Awesome. Well, thank you for inspiring my husband, and no doubt some of the listeners here as well. And I think, I love the message, the no bad days. It's not about toxic positivity. It's not about saying things can't be challenging, but I love that we've always got the opportunity to end the day without it being a bad day. And absolutely love it. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for bringing Kenny in, because Kenny's still sitting in my lap. I'm going to have to put a photo in here so people can see. Kenny's definitely been part of this conversation. And it's been an absolute pleasure, Macca. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Macca. Thanks, Shez, for having me on your podcast as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining
Special
us, Andy.
guest.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Lead with Courage podcast. We illuminate leadership, and it's our mission to inspire and grow the leaders of today to create a better tomorrow. We hope and trust that this episode has given you some insights and joy to empower you to live your biggest, best life. If you did enjoy the episode, we'd be so grateful for you to rate and share wherever you listen to this podcast. And until next time, go and lead with courage.